It's time to cut that grass around these beehives. Oh my. Mr. Ed here. Today is September 1st, 2020. It's about just a little over 9 o'clock in the morning. And I just finished cutting the field right behind me where our beehives are located. Got that field cut, and since I was outside, I said, well, you know, today would be a great day to do this follow-up video on two of the hives that we pulled out. Well, in fact, this hive we pulled out August 1st, so it's been a month for this one, and the one at the other end of the building right here we pulled out a week later. So we do a follow-up video on the progress of these hives. And this hive right here was the one that we did in Lacombe, that a lot of bees but very little stores and very little brood. So when we go into the box, in this box, I'm really going to be looking on the progress of the queen and how much stores these bees have built up over this last month. Now, I've been feeding these bees honey steadily now for the whole month. In fact, the bottles that in here, I've got 2 quart bottles in here right now, and that will, after these are drained, that will have been 2 gallons of honey that I fed them, and on the hive at the other end of the building it'll be 1 gallon of honey that I fed them. So I know they got stores, but they'll eat that as well. So we're going to find out what's going on with all that. And the reason I wanted to do it right now is because my pollen feeder just emptied out. The bees just finished pulling pollen, cleaning all the pollen out of this thing. Because if I would have tried to go in this hive yesterday or the day before, I've been worried about this hive getting robbed out, because there were literally thousands of bees feeding on the pollen right now. In fact, let me show you the picture of what they were looking like. while I'm talking about the pollen feeder, I may as well actually talk about it, huh? So this is just a pollen feeder, a pollen substitute feeder. And what I use this thing for is I fill it with pollen and I keep it full of pollen all year round, because I don't know when the bees are going to decide to one day decide they want to start eating pollen, and they start feeding on it. So for that reason, I keep it underneath the roof right here and out of the weather. But this feeder itself really does keep the pollen substitute really dry. So even though it stays out here all year, it's still powdery where the bees can work it really well. And I mean, it's great because you can dump a lot of pollen substitute inside of here. And the top comes off, just rotate it off, and then you can just dump your pollen feeder into it right here. And the substitute that I use, it's this, I get it from Man Lake, same place that I got the feeder from. And it's not like I'm endorsing Man Lake, I'm not. This is just where I bought these products from. And yeah, I bought them, they didn't give them to me. So, but they really are good. I find them useful, so you know, I talk about it. But this is the substitute that I use. It's called Ultra B feed. Yeah, I buy it by the 50-pound sack, and I'll probably go through 100 pounds of it a year. So this is my second bag right here, and it's probably about 15 pounds left in it. So I'll be making another order pretty soon. And I think this stuff is around, I don't know, 60, 70 bucks for a bag of it. But I don't mind spending the money to feed the bees, because when they need it, and they'll come and feed up on it. But it is pretty interesting, and so when I finish this job today, I'll go ahead and fill it up again, because I want the bees. They want the pollen right now. In fact, not only are bees feeding, you know, on the pollen here, but as I was walking around the hives this morning, man, the bees were just bringing in the pollen. And so something is blooming. And here it is, the very beginning of September, which for the most part starts our final nectar bloom for the year. And I know I've been looking at our goldenrod. I still haven't seen any buds on it. They're tall. It's like they could start flowering out, but there's no real signs of them. That usually doesn't happen until the end of September for us. But I know the elm trees in the cemetery, this is typically beginning of September. They'll start blooming, and when you walk in the cemetery, and I hope I get it this year, when you walk in the cemetery, they've got a whole street lined with these elm trees, and as you walk underneath them, the amount of bees that are in these trees, it sounds like a train. It's like there's so many bees, it's so loud. It's like one of the reasons I like walking back to the cemetery, because it's like so peaceful with those bees, you know, the cemetery graves. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to start with this hive right here. And we're going to start looking and seeing how these bees have been doing over the last month. Before we even take the lid off the top, I want to show you this on the outside. Now, on the ground right there, you see those rubber bands. And what happens is that the comb that I framed up, we hold it in with the rubber bands, and after a period of time when the bees attach that comb to the frames, they will cut those rubber bands and they will drag them out of the little hole. And so there's the hole right there, and they drag them out, and whoop, they just drop them right on the ground, right where they are. And this is a fantastic sign of hygienics. It's a great genetics that when you see this in bees, that's a quality that you want to perpetuate. And so every time I do a cutout and I find the rubber bands on the ground, that's one of the very first signs to say, oh good, these bees have got something. They might be worth something to add to our genetics here at the Abbey. So let's go ahead and take off that top and find out how much stores these bees have got, how much brood is in there hopefully, and maybe we can find our queen. Let's see what these girls have been doing. Now, as you can see, I just use that second deep super is just simply as a spacer so that I can put my jars and they can be covered. There's as you can tell, this jar right here is empty, and this one's almost empty. So it's almost 2 gallons of honey that I've been feeding these girls. So we're going to remove this lid as well as the honey jars. It's always funny when you pull these off to see the bees. they're still working on the honey in there. And when we removed these bees, they were just so gentle bees, so I'm really expecting about the same kind of temperament from them. Now, there were a lot of bees when we vacuumed these bees. There were a lot of bees in here. And as you see for yourself, there still are a lot of bees, which is a great thing, because very often when you do a removal, you have a dramatic decrease in the bees. The stress that's involved from that removal, though it may not show on the bees initially, over the initial 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see a dramatic decrease in the number of bees. But it's very possible that we've had, since it's a month, we may have even had a brood hatch in here, so which would attribute to some of these bees. But we're going to find out really quick as to see what exactly is going on with these girls, because I really am curious myself. I normally wouldn't be doing this, but because I don't like to mess with the bees this time of year, but I really do want to find out and show you how these bees have been coming along over this last month. So you can see this is all brand new caps. So this stuff they may be storing from what I've been feeding them. Well, they really are storing the honey really well. And what I'd point out, I don't know if the camera's showing it, you can see how the bees have attached the comb now to the frame solidly on 3 sides, this side, as well as the bottom. And on this one, they've attached it to the bottom and to the side. So very shortly, they're going to be cutting these rubber bands out. They've already, as you can see, the rubber band that was crossing here, they've already cut that one out. That one's already gone. And often, as is the case right here, they'll build wax across the rubber bands onto the frames, and then just like what I did with there, I had to separate that rubber band from the frame. Again, it's really encouraging to see all the stores of capped honey in here. Very, very good, because all this is going to enable the bees to make it through the winter. And another really good thing, look how they've attached all the wax to the frame. So these frames, these combs that I cut out and put in here, they have really secured them very, very nicely. Very nicely. Now, when we put this hive in here, there was absolutely no brood. And I'm happy to say I see brood right now. It's not really good looking, but I see capped brood right now. So that's awesome. Yep. So we have capped brood right here. So this is all within the last month, all this brood. And I can see some of them, they're getting ready to come out right now. And I see brand new larvae in there as well. And again, you can see how they've attached the comb to the frame. And then you can see where the rubber band was right here. How it was right at this point right here. They've cut it out because you can see the indentation of the wax. Again, our brood is getting a better pattern to it. Still a bit spotty, but acceptable. And on this side it's pretty spotty, but you could have had hatch outs in there, so it could be one of the reasons why it looks like that. But there is a lot of brood in here. I see a lot of larvae. I'm looking for eggs in there. I do not see any eggs. There are some very young larvae in there. I'm guessing this is going to be our queen frame. Oh, lots of brood on this. Lots of brood. Let me flip this other side, see if our queen's on the other side. You can see how good the comb is staying attached to the frame. They really do secure this really well. I mean, I'm encouraged, really encouraged by the amount of brood and their stores. I mean, they really are looking very, very good. There's our queen right there. Look at that. She's not a real big queen, but she's, let's see if I can point her out to you. I can't see the camera, so I'll just point to our queen as she's walking around. That's her. Let's see if she'll crawl on my finger. Now, see if she goes somewhere where y'all can see her. She's making her way almost out trying to get, there you go. She's out on the open all by herself right now. There you go, right there. All right, that's enough. We've seen enough. These guys are really, they've made that transition from the removal, the stress that they endured from that. They've made that transition very well. They're doing well with their stores. They're dramatically increasing in numbers with the amount of brood, because there was like 0, and now there is significantly more brood in here, and that's just in 4 weeks. So let's finish closing this one up, and then we're going to move down to the other end of the building and look at that hive as well. And this hive right here was one that Charlie, Ralph, and I took out of Slidell 3 weeks ago, and that hive was just in really, really bad shape. The hive beetles, tremendous amount of hive beetles. In fact, there were so many hive beetles in the hive that I did not use any of the comb, because I was just too afraid that the number of bees, which weren't very many, they wouldn't be able to defend the hive once they got relocated. So I dropped them into this little nuke box right here with some drawn out comb, some old brood comb. And I have been feeding them honey. This is their 4th bottle of honey that I fed them. So let's pop the top and see what these girls are, how they're faring out. Now, when I first released the queen on this one, I remember I was kind of surprised. There were actually 3 frames of bees, and I thought that was pretty good considering there really weren't that many bees in that hive. So we'll see how they've been doing, how their numbers have fared since the removal. And like I said, there were 3 frames of bees, and they're pretty much holding their number right now. I've got 2 solid frames of bees. There's bees working on this frame right here. And there's a couple on this. So let's pull these frames out and see how they're doing with their stores. Now, there was absolutely nothing on these frames when I dropped it in. These were empty frames other than the drawn out comb. And you can see from that first one, these are just some honey that they've stored, because there was nothing on these frames at all. And the number of bees is still not great. However, I'm encouraged because at least we have bees in here, because this hive looked terrible when we pulled it out that wall. Alright, so here we have, you can see the glistening, I don't know, maybe not, the glistening of the honey that's in there. It capped this stuff right here. And nothing on this side. And since this frame has the most bees on it, this is the one I'm assuming is going to have our queen on it. And hopefully we'll have some brood, because there was nothing before. Oh, look at that. We got brood. Hot dog. Oh, it's so great. Look at that, huh? Man, that's so, I'm so happy to see that. That's so good. Man, it gives me hope for these bees. I'm still looking for our queen. I would imagine she's going to be on this frame. Again, there's more brood on that part. And they've stored a lot of honey. That's really good. Now, if she wasn't on that frame, she's going to have to be on this one. There's no brood on this frame. The only brood was on that one frame right there. And the last frame, I think I missed our queen. They're storing on this frame as well. Let's go back on that third frame. She's got to be on there. I just didn't see her. And there are a lot of bees down inside the box down there. A lot of bees down there. So she could be down in that corner. And she wasn't on a frame. But with this pattern right here, that looks really encouraging. And look at that pattern there. Yeah, these bees are going to do good too. All right, let's close this one up. Well, that really does make me happy to find out that both of those hives, both of those removals are doing really well. It's only been 3 weeks for one and 4 weeks for the other, but I was really surprised at that one, only 3 weeks, how much brood was in there. Sorry we didn't find the queen on that one, but I know she's in there and she's doing well. So I'm going to finish filling up the feeder right here. The church bell is going to be ringing any minute now, so I got to hurry up. And I'll conclude this video. So thanks for watching. Keep on watching. I'll be making more. God bless, Mr. Red. I'm out of here until the next video.
And I'm usually pretty good about watching for snakes. In fact, I spend too much time looking down because then I miss what's above. And I'm thinking it was a black racer as fast as it moved, but I must have stepped over it, and it must not have been paying attention either. And it whipped around, and I'm dancing because I was trying to see what I didn't step on it. I would have felt that. But I'm doing happy feet, and it's swirling around, and it was the funniest thing. You're not filming this, are you?
Yeah. I'm just seeing if you're in the frame.
Going over